Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
First one is titled, Handicapped Parking is for handicapped people, not rich ones. First, just for your information, in most handicapped parking spots, there is a place next to the parking spot marked off for loading and unloading wheelchairs. In the US, it's usually painted with diagonal stripes. On to the story. My son and I were at Walmart, and as I parked, I saw that a new BMW convertible owner decided that striped spot was set aside for him. I looked, and there was no sign of a placard or handicap tag. I'm upset and I stewed about it the whole time we were shopping. When he was still parked there when I came out, I decided to get spiteful. I found a piece of paper, and left a note on his windshield. It said, "So sorry, I did not mean to scrape your car with my wheelchair. I would leave my contact info, but you were illegally parked, blocking my van. So good luck buffing that out." We sat in the car another 20 minutes and waited. Out came this guy that looked like a personal trainer. He came jogging up to his car, chatting on his phone. He saw the note, screamed, "Oh, crap." Then he spent the next 20 minutes going over his car, inch by inch, rubbing every speck of dust or dirt. He was still looking when we left. Nothing harmed, no damage, just a lesson, hopefully, learned. Next one is titled, Sniffin' Things. Years ago when I got married, my dad gave me my grandmother's wedding ring to give to my wife. At the reception, the ladies were admiring my wife's ring when my aunt, my dad's sister, saw my wife's wedding ring and became visibly upset. She grabbed her things quietly and left the reception. Of course, we all noticed. When I asked my dad about it later on, he told me the following story. "Your aunt was a spoiled brat. She treated my parents terribly. She ostracized herself from the family because she wanted nothing to do with us. She felt that my parents owed her everything and anything that they could give to her in regards to money and support. My parents were great people. Her problem was that years ago my mother refused to buy her a new car even though my sister could afford it. My parents offered to buy her a used refurbished car, but my sister's argument was that there's nothing like the real thing. There was a big family argument where she cursed them out and she abandoned the family for around 10 years. Years later, as my mother started to become ill, my sister wouldn't visit her once. Towards the end, where we knew she had little chance of living or going on, my sister suddenly showed up. One night while going to the bathroom, I heard a noise in my mum's bedroom and there was my sister trying on my mum's rings. One of them was my mum's wedding band that she had always wanted. When I asked my mum later about it, she said that my aunt had always wanted that ring, but my grandmother didn't want her to have it because she knew that deep down she was still a spoiled, nasty person, and she felt that a ring that was given to her out of love should go to someone else out of love, and the only person she could think of was her grandson. She wanted that ring to go to her grandson's new wife when he got married down the road. My dad then proceeded to tell me that he borrowed the wedding ring and took it to a jeweler friend of his. They were buddies since high school. He asked his friend if he could make an exact duplicate of that ring, but with cubic zirconia and fake stones that go with it. When my mother passed away, my dad went to her room and exchanged the ring for the real one. He said, "I knew the witch would come sniffin'." Sure enough, the same day that my grandmother died, my aunt made some excuse to come over to her house saying that she left something there. My dad swung by later, and when he looked in the jewelry box, the ring was missing. Fine. On the day of the wedding, after my aunt saw my wife's new ring as she was walking back to her table, my dad whispered to her, "I hope you enjoyed your fake ring. There's nothing like the real thing, huh?" Next one is titled, Karen Refuses to File Accident Report with Insurance. The accident happened last summer, but it came to a conclusion yesterday. I had my car parked in front of a supermarket to grab some snacks for the road. When I get back to my car, I see a car turn into the spot next to mine. As I walk towards the driver's side door, I notice a serious scratch on the rear fender. She gets out and we check the damage. At this point she offers me $100, but as I have a feeling it's going to be more expensive, I decline. The car isn't even a year old at the time. Now this is in Europe, we have a standard accident report form to take down the facts about the incident so the insurance companies can determine liability. Unfortunately, neither of us had one of those forms with us. Well, I didn't. She just said she didn't but didn't even check. We exchanged phone numbers and would get in touch later to fill out the form. The next day, I go to a car repair shop. They give me a quote that's well over $1,000. Even though this is a matter for the insurance, she asks me for the quote, which I give her. She thinks it's too expensive and wants me to get another quote. I decline as it's her own clumsiness that's already been taking way too much of my time. I let her know that I just want that report form filled out. I mail her a form where I've filled out my half, so she can add her side. In the next few weeks, I repeatedly ask her to return the form, but she just tells me she hasn't gotten around to it yet. Finally, I give her an ultimatum or I'll hand it off to legal counsel. At this point she blocked me. Obviously, I do as I said, report the incident to my insurance and let them know the other party wouldn't cooperate. At this point I just wanted the repair done and paid for. My insurance would pay most of it, I just owed $300 deductible. Of course, my insurance company would try to get her insurance to pay, but as I understand it, she kept refusing to file the report. Now, my car has video cameras all around and the accident was clearly visible. Last week, my insurance company called and asked me for that footage. Yesterday I got a call that based on the video, her insurance was accepting liability, so I'm getting the $300 deductible refunded. And the unintended revenge? She's probably going to get expelled from her insurance, because apparently she broke a law by not cooperating. So instead of paying a slightly higher premium, she's now going to have to go shopping for probably a much higher premium. Next one is titled, "Be Rude to Me and Cut Me Off?" You can bet I will stand there and watch the company dump dollars down the drain. This happened many years ago, but I randomly thought of it tonight when I saw a similar situation. I used to work at a gas station. This particular company was not like most gas stations though. They treat their employees well and train them extensively. For the most part the atmosphere was great, co-workers and managers were great too. Except there was one assistant manager that was extremely rude to me. It didn't matter how polite I was or how hard I worked. She constantly micromanaged and would be flat out rude. She would also snap at me and be condescending to me in front of customers. At first I thought it might be a case of proving myself as I had run into that kind of manager before and they lightened up once they realized I was a solid employee. But that was not the case here, and what once was a fun place to work quickly became a nightmare. To make matters worse, everyone that worked there knew this about her, but the manager always let it slide as the assistant's relative manages another location. One evening she called to ask questions about which pump had broken down first, as I had been there when it happened. As I began to explain, she didn't let me get more than a few words out, basically just wanted to hear what she thought happened, before rudely cutting me off and hanging up on me. At that moment I decided I had enough. Trust me, it took months upon months to get to that point, and didn't bother calling back. Little did she know, if she had let me finish my sentence she would have known the issue technically started at a completely different pump the first time, but it was actually all of them at once. When I arrived at work the next day they were still having the same issues and working on the wrong pump. This went on for several days before she and the other boss called me in the office and asked me again what exactly happened. To which I looked at her and said, "Are you going to let me finish my sentence this time, or are you going to cut me off again?" Cue the both of them staring at me like I had 6 heads. I then went on again to explain what happened, and made sure to point out the moment she had cut me off and hung up on me, and said, "Now if I had gotten to finish my sentence the other night you would have known that the issue was not with the pump they've been working on for the past 4 days. And they all actually went down at once, but it only appeared they went one at a time because of the timing between customers, which suggests an issue with the tank system, not the pumps." The assistant's eyes got wide. "You knew this whole time? The company has spent thousands already on the wrong pump." To which I shrugged my shoulders and replied, "Again, maybe you shouldn't have cut me off and hung up on me. That was the cherry on top of months of you being rude to me for no good reason. Why would I bother?" The assistant looked at me and then to the big boss, who also shrugged and said, "You know, assistant, I don't blame throwaway one bit. She then excused me. The assistant ended up being written up for creating a hostile work environment after the big boss investigated and heard from other employees how she had treated me. She barely said 2 words to me for the remaining months I was there before I finally found a new job. I did apologize to the big boss for not speaking up, and while she told me she wished I had spoken up, she did understand why I chose to not say anything and that there was a history of this assistant being this way towards employees that do well. She perceives them as a threat even though they are just doing their job. Petty but worth it, especially if this is what it took for her to learn a lesson in treating others with simple respect. Next one is titled, Perv Manager. Okay, so this starts back in 1994. I was working at a convenience store that started as an ice company. My BFF worked at a different location, another good friend had worked with him before. Her manager was a disgusting creep. She got the job when she was 18, only because she agreed to be his date at his high school reunion. When she was stocking shelves, he would reach into the chest pocket of her vest to grab a pen. She was always too scared to say anything, but others in the store noticed. One older lady decided to quit and sent a letter to head office about this manager and how he abused his staff. It was 5 pages long. My BFF was being interviewed by head office and mentioned my name as I had witnessed him with my other friend years before. I get called in and explain how he used to have sex with my friend in the milk cooler during work. Well, it got back to him what I had said. This wonderful users-to-be ice company decided the women were lunatics, and instead of firing this sex abuser, they promoted him to regional manager. Now he was my boss's boss. I knew my time there was limited, and that was okay with me. Needless to say, he made my life hell at work for a month before I called in on a Friday night and quit. Turns out they were going to fire me on the Sunday night when I ended my shift. I came in on the Saturday and got my last paycheck. They already had it prepared with my work hours from the weekend included, plus severance pay of 2 weeks. I open the check outside and notice that it's too much and quickly run across the street to the bank and cash the check. Next week head office calls and said they overpaid me and wanted me to send the money back or they would take legal action on me. I told them to try, and I would go to the local newspaper and blast them on how they promoted a sex abuser who then tries to fire everyone who complained about him. Needless to say, they never called me back. Fast forward a few years and I'm working at a chartered bank, and my new personal banker is a girl I went to high school with. As I'm passing her desk, I notice that his name is on the door of the office beside her. I ask her about him. Yup, it's the same guy, and I'm like, let me tell you a story about that ducker, as she also went to school with my other 2 friends he assaulted. Needless to say, he used to be an account manager at a major bank. She told everyone in the company and he left. I was told a few years later that he hadn't had a decent job since then. I forgot to mention that I ran into his mum years later and told her what her son did, and she apologized for him. Don't mess with me and my friends. Next one is titled, Wasted a Rude Bank Teller's Time Out of Spite. My wife went to the bank earlier today to set up a bank account because she's started babysitting on the side and wanted to put the money into an account. She had about $85 that she wanted to deposit today, and another $200 that she would be getting on Friday. The bank teller turned her down for an account because she was not the type of customer this bank was looking for. I didn't even know it was possible. So today when I got off work, I went to the bank to open an account. I bank with a credit union, so I have no reason to bank with them. I made sure to get the same teller that she had. Very distinct characteristics. By the time I got there, the bank would be closing in 10 minutes. I insisted on opening an account today, and because they saw me get out of a nice car, and the fact that I was dressed in a suit, they accepted. We sat there for maybe 45 minutes filling out paperwork and all that. At the end, she tells me that I need to put money into the account in order for it to open. I told her I didn't have any money at the time, but would be able to on Friday. She got huffy and puffy with me, saying that I can't actually open an account unless I deposit money into it. I then told her that my wife came in earlier today and had money to deposit, but she had been turned down. The lady got really upset with me and told me to leave. As I was leaving, she said, "Thanks for wasting my time." My pleasure. Next one is titled, Don't Want to Get Your Animals Out of My Apartment, Pay $1,500. I, male 22, used to live with 3 other guys. One of them had a girlfriend who was over all the time. She cleaned and bought stuff, so it was cool for a while. Then she asked us if she could pet sit 2 newborn kittens for a week while her parents were out of town. I knew I was allergic to dogs, but didn't know I was deathly allergic to cats. The cats get there and after a day I'm an allergic mess. However, I agreed to them staying. There's not much she can do with them, so I put up with it for a week. A week goes by and the cats should be gone. I get home and they are still there. The girlfriend says, oh, they're going to stay for another week. On top of that, the girlfriend's boyfriend, my roommate, his mum has fallen and hurt her neck pretty bad and is in the hospital, so now he is watching his dog at our apartment. So I try to keep cool. Girl, the cats have got to go. Sorry, the week is up. You can't just keep them here. I told you I'm allergic, and you don't pay rent, so get them out. As for my roommate, I told him that I'm sorry about his mum, but that I can't keep living with animals I am allergic to. No one asked me if the dog could come, and no one asked me if the cats could stay longer. I suggest maybe they keep the animals at his girlfriend's apartment, who lives a whole mile away. You are so ridiculous. You are crazy. My mum is in the hospital and you care about my dog being here, says my roommate. I can't just bring these animals to my apartment, I have roommates. Gee which, what are we? I storm out of the apartment and immediately head to the leasing office. I tell them that we have 3 animals in our apartment, and that we have not paid the pet fee, $500 per animal. I ask them to come by later and make up an excuse that the animals are being too loud, neighbors are complaining, and that we didn't pay our pet deposit. The next day I come home from class and the girlfriend is crying on the couch. The leasing office came by and said we had to get rid of the animals due to complaints. Oh no, I responded. Luckily they got a warning about the pets, and didn't have to pay the $1,500. I suck at confrontation, so I love when other people can take the reins for me. Next one is titled, Don't Wanna Pay Me for Shoveling Your Snow, We'll Have Some More. I live in New Jersey and we just had a snowstorm, so I thought I could make some quick cash by shoveling driveways. So I start off and do a couple of houses and make about $80, pretty good money for me. So I go to this house and this lady says that she will give $50 for shoveling her driveway and sidewalk, so I start and finish about 20 minutes later. I go up to the door and knock, but she won't open, so I go to the back door and knock, she still doesn't open. Then I see her looking at me through the window, but she quickly turns away and pretends like nothing happened. At this point I realize that I just got tricked into doing a shitty ton of work and I'm not getting paid. I start to walk home all upset and then remember that my friend who lived down the street has one of those machines that clears snow. Let the revenge begin. I borrow it from him and run down to her house. I turn it on and blast that snow that I shoveled and some more all on her yard. Then she rushes outside and starts yelling at me, but I return the machine to my friend's house and go home. Next one is titled, The Catastrophic Complainant. My crazy neighbor tried hard to find any reason to complain about us to the landlord. One day, she complained about getting cat hair in her apartment and tried to get the landlord to force us to get rid of them. It was highly unlikely since our cats don't go out, they don't go in the hallway, and it was winter, so there is no way the hair was falling off our clothing under a winter coat. I'm a very zen person, but this upsets me so much because she has absolutely no reason to hate us and we never reply to her constant provocations. I knew the landlord couldn't force us to get rid of the cats because it's written in the lease agreement. So that night, I brushed my 2 cats, I got all the hair I could gather and I spread it all over the hallway, lots of them. I know it was childish but totally worth it. She got the message that I was done with her crap, and since then, she's actually being nice to me. Last one is titled, So Call Me Maybe. In the mid-90s, I was living in a triplex in a fancy city neighborhood. My new downstairs neighbor was crazy. She was just rude to people. When I rescued her cat, she grabbed the poor thing so fast that it scratched me and she didn't even say thanks. Once, she sent my roommate, who struggled with weight, a note about his fat footfalls keeping her up all night. This went on for a year. The revenge was great. I was up late one night, instant messaging a colleague over AOL Instant Messenger, when some random guy mistook my gender-bent username as female. Boy, did he pester me. For 2 hours, he kept sending messages. He just wouldn't take no, served dozens of different ways, for an answer. Finally, I broke down. Yes, I said. Yes, I will talk to you. Here is my phone number. I sent him the number of the crazy woman downstairs. Her phone rang in about 2 seconds. I heard her answer, and after about 3 seconds, she started yelling into the phone. He called her back 3 or 4 times. Each time I heard the phone ring downstairs, thin walls, I would laugh so hard I'd almost cry. Thanks for listening.